Good evening and welcome to this edition of Housing Fair, Safe and Affordable. I'm Pam Favreau. I'm with Vermont Tenants, and for almost 2 years now my coworkers from the Fair Housing Program and the Mobile Home Program have been presenting the show every other month. And hopefully by this point in time we've managed to impress upon people that jointly we are the CVOEO, Coordinated Statewide Housing Services. And Coordinated Statewide Housing Services is pretty self-explanatory. The real question is, what is CVOEO? And to help me answer that question tonight, I'd like you to welcome my guest, Jan Demers, the Executive Director of CVOEO. Hi, Jan, and welcome, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Pam. First thing, I've been in so many meetings lately, and the biggest thing we have is acronyms. So CVOEO, and it was the hardest thing when I first started to learn the job. CVOEO is Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity. And the things that we do as CVOEO is that we walk with people as they address social and racial and economic issues that relate to poverty. And we really do walk with people as they achieve economic independence and sustainability. So there's a number of programs that comprise CVOEO, and it's always amazing to people when we start to talk about that, because it's really, CVOEO is like I like to think about it as a screensaver.
A screensaver. I
That's
thought
right.
It was an umbrella, but I've
Or
never
it
thought
could
of
be
it as
an
screensaver.
umbrella too, but there are all sorts of programs in there, and Pam is involved with a number of them, and as we go through we'll be able to highlight those. But I did want to just be able to synthesize a little bit about the programs that we do have. We work with people when they're in emergency situations. We help them when they're trying to sustain their lifestyle, and when they have the issues of overwhelming issues of underemployment and unemployment and homelessness. So there are issues that we work with people when they're in emergency situations, when they're trying to sustain their life and in their community, and also when people are moving out of poverty and making that leap and making giant steps into a more stable lifestyle. So we have, to do that, we have a number of programs. The first thing that you think about when you think about community action or CVOEO is our emergency offices, and that right. Is we have three.
And that's what surprises a lot of people. I think they think locally Chittenden County.
Right, but we actually cover 4 counties. We cover Addison and Chittenden and Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Right. And because of that, we have a number of programs that are similar but have their own flavor in the counties where they reside. Right. We have an office for community action in Middlebury, one in Burlington for Chittenden County, and then in St. Albans for Franklin Grand Isle County. And in those offices, when you walk in the doors, there are people there to help you if you have fuel needs for crisis fuel, and that's going to be especially important this year. We have people that help with housing assistance, and then with transportation issues. We walk with people as they face disconnects and work with utilities hand in hand with them to try to resolve those kind of issues, and that's what happens at our emergency sites. And then, of course, in Franklin Grand Isle and in Addison County, we have food shelves that are associated with those sites.
Right, right. I think that surprises a lot of people as well.
That's right.
But I've also noticed in those counties, the local support amongst people in those counties is tremendous for the food shelves.
Oh, it is. Food drives, special, the lions, the elks, CycleWise down in Addison County has done some benefits. There's people come out of many different places to support the needs for the hungry. Right. And we see that everywhere. But then there's also the Chittenden Emergency Food Shelf that I don't think a lot of people associate with CVOEO, but that is one of our programs as well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that I'm familiar with. And I think a lot of people, particularly here in Chittenden County, are familiar with that program.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned before we leave, like the immediate walk-in emergency services, was heating assistance. And I know in our own offices we're starting to ramp up for the heating season. Mm-hmm. But I also know the warmth program in general is facing a lot of challenges. How are things looking I mean, are we gonna all freeze this winter?
It's a pretty dismal prospect, really, right now, because there are a number of things that have affected us. One is LIHEAP, which is the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. And LIHEAP at the federal level has been cut dramatically. Because of that, the state has stepped up to the plate in the amount of $6 million. With that, we're still $200 below the average assistance that was offered last year. So the average benefit assistance for someone on for seasonal LIHEAP is about $717. But there's been a huge change this year in LIHEAP assistance with the Crisis Fuel Program. In the Crisis Fuel Program, last year there were 3 assists that people could get for emergency assistance. And now people can only get 1 assist, and that is if they already have a seasonal benefit. They've already received a seasonal benefit. And that's a huge change.
Word to go out on, yes.
It is a good word to get out, because people, if they don't have a seasonal benefit, they need to apply for it. And they can, even now. I mean, they can. It's a rolling application, so they can apply now. So there'll be less crisis help available for people. And that assist may only be 1. If you don't apply, you're not eligible, I should say, for the seasonal benefit. You are eligible for 2 assists that are crisis.
Yeah.
But then the other portion of that, it's like a patchwork quilt. When you try to put all these things together, the other part of the patchwork quilt is the warmth program, and that's the program that we work with the utilities, with Burlington Electric and Vermont Gas and for Green Mountain Power. And then people that receive those services, like in my bill that I get from Vermont Gas or from Burlington Electric, there's an envelope that says you can donate to the warmth program. When I'm sitting in my warm home and I get that envelope, I think there are people that are not able to pay their fuel bills and that are going to be cold and have small children or are elderly in drafty homes, and so I'm apt to give that way.
They do a really good job in terms of helping us spread the word about things. And I think one of the things that just came up for me that I think people don't realize about CVOEO as opposed to all our individual programs is that it's wonderful that the state stepped up to the plate with money for LIHEAP. It's fabulous. But a lot of the times, things like that happen because our legislators, when they're facing decisions like this, come to the organizations that are experts in whatever the subject is. And so I know that you actually have played a good part in working with the state and our legislators to help inform them and help look at options instead of people freezing. So.
Well, it still is a great concern, Pam, this coming winter with crisis fuel. I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah. And so we tell people, touch base with us anyway. If there's a way that can be found, we will find it.
That's right. That's what we're good at, is brainstorming and trying to find solutions and listening.
So that's kind of the immediate emergency phase of CVOEO. But, I know because I'm working there that once you get in the door, these are not individual programs that never the train shall meet.
Right.
These are programs that look at a holistic approach to whatever's happening with the person coming in the door. So
that's right.
Let's talk about something that's a lot surprising to a lot of people, and that's our Financial Futures program.
That's an amazing
That's an amazing program. They're doing incredible work right now.
I'm
fortunate I'm across the hall from them, so we work together a lot. So what's up with them?
The Financial Futures program really does delve into also housing. They're working now, something that you're working with on the Rent Right program through the Community Housing Grant. And that's an amazing program in itself. But Financial Futures looks at ways that are solid ways for people to move out of poverty. And it's amazing. It's amazing to their staff that sometimes they'll be giving a Growing Money class, which is a series of 1 or 2 hour classes to educate and to really inspire people to look at the way they use their money and and give them different options of using their money, and to realize the assets that they have, but to realize that in those classes there are actual people that are homeless. So what do you have as assets? And that's what they build on. They build on what do you have right now and you may not realize is an asset. Then they look at what is your credit and how can we repair your credit? What are the tools we can use to repair your credit? And it's better not it's better to face it and know where you are and to move from that than to try to pretend it doesn't exist, because credit affects everything from getting an apartment
Absolutely.
to starting your own business, and they do that there at Financial Futures. They are a low income offering, low and moderate income offering for people who want to start their own businesses.
Right, right.
Pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing. I've seen some of the business coming out of it. They're pretty astonishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Then there are match savings. There are individual development accounts that people can save, and then their savings are matched if you want to start a business, or if you want to continue your education, or if you want to purchase a home. And people have done that through this program, all those offerings. Right.
Right. Yeah, it's a pleasure working across the hall from them. So let me ask you about one of our programs. That this is the one I think, I spend a lot of time traveling the state and doing public education stuff, and a lot of people will go, CVOEO? But when you mention individual programs, and this is the one that everybody goes, oh, of course, Head Start.
That's
Head
right.
Start is a CVOEO program.
It is. And Head Start has a number of layers. We have home visitors, and then we have classrooms, and then we have classrooms within centers, like the Sarah Holbrook Center has a classroom, or King Street has a Head Start classroom. So we collaborate with a number of child care providers and who have innovative programs and offer Head Start. And Head Start is not just early essential education, it's also wellness. They have tooth tutors, and they have programs to help children feel comfortable when they're going to a physician or taking care of their bodies as well as their minds.
Yeah, they do wonderful work. We have an annual meeting gathering of all CVOEO staff from all corners, and at our last meeting last year, Head Start did a wonderful slide presentation about their programs that had even CVOEO staff almost in tears, just the work they do and all those children. So
That's right.
I think that's the one that surprises a lot of people. Yeah, Head Start is us, absolutely.
That's right.
Here's the other thing that surprises people, and that's Voices for Violence in Lori's house.
That's right.
That one, I think there are some times where you keep the existence of programs or their locations a little more low-key, but this is one that we really need to trumpet the work that we're doing, because it's unrecognized as ours. So talk to us about that.
Well, Voices for Violence is a program that is that addresses sexual and domestic abuse. It is in Franklin and Grand Isle counties. It mirrors the work that's being done here in Chittenden County for women helping battered women, and it has a number of components, one of which is pretty unique because of the offering, and that is supervised visitation. So to keep children safe, there is a program where they have, the parents are able to come in and stay with someone and develop the relationship with their children, which would be unsafe without another person present. There's also a shelter called Lori's House, which is a safe and confidential shelter where women and children can go and start their lives over again that have experienced domestic violence. And there are support groups that go along with Lori's House. There's legal assistance, and they also have programs that work with the Sheriff's Office and in Grand Isle and in Franklin County with law enforcement to protect the family.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
So, emergency services, food, warmth, utilities, help with your money, help building businesses, dealing with children and early education and health, domestic abuse. Wow. And we're not done. So, let's talk about my neck of the woods, and that's CVOEO's Coordinated Statewide Housing Programs. And because we all rotate these shows, I think people might be familiar with them, but not how they kind of fit into the CVOEO puzzle. So let's start with housing discrimination and our Fair Housing Program.
Right. And you're the expert with this, but I'm very proud of the work that's being done with our statewide coordinated housing. There are it's like a three-legged stool that forms a great base for protection in housing. And the discrimination that comes when people look at housing or are shut out of housing, that's taken care of with the Fair Housing project. And the fair housing really is targeting municipalities, towns, and villages, and making sure that they affirmatively further fair housing, that they are open communities for every person, and that no one gets shut out. So it's a wonderful program to combat discrimination in housing. And then mobile home is doing so much, and especially this past year and a half with
the mobile home program is kind of our star child this past year. It's
Oh,
amazing the work they've done. We all are.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
all are, but
Yeah.
they've won, their directors won some awards, and they've done
Yeah.
some amazing stuff.
Yeah, they're housing. Sean Gilpin is a housing hero, and that really acknowledges the work that they did during Irene, when so many mobile homes were destroyed. And when you own a home but you don't own the land, you're in a precarious situation where you've lost all your assets and yet you still owe. So, and then they had to remove the trailers there, and so Sean worked with Lieutenant Governor Phil Scott, and worked with the Vermont Community Foundation and the general contractors, and really worked hard to find options for people to safely remove their mobile homes without paying the $6,000 that it was going to cost to do that, because that's almost like insult to injury and insult,
still paying
and
for it,
wounds.
and it's gone, and yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
Right.
And not to mention that they're toxic in some ways. When any home, be it stick built or mobile home, when you start breaking them down, you have a lot of materials on your hand that you can't just toss into a landfill. So
That's right.
they did an incredible piece of work in that, and I think, I'd like for them to get the recognition for the work they did, because Helen was overwhelming to all of us.
Yeah.
And the work they did, which Irene was overwhelming to all of us. So the work they did was amazing.
Yeah, it really was. But then also, they've done an awful lot of work with mobile home associations, where an owner may want to sell the mobile home park, and what do you do then? They want to sell your land, but you've got your home there, and you're in a pickle. So they've done an awful lot with organizing and working with mobile home owners, and they've actually assisted with several associations who have purchased the mobile home association or the park, and are starting their communities and making them stronger. Mobile home associations and communities are strong.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
are.
And when they pull together enough to be able to be co-op owners of their own park, just the ability for them to work together is amazing sometimes to watch.
Yeah.
But I've also seen them begin to go in and organize, and our organizers at the Mobile Home Project sometimes walk into a very explosive situation, and their ability to take people through this process when there's a lot of tension is just incredible for me to watch as they do it.
They are very skilled.
So.
Yeah, and compassionate.
Absolutely.
And courageous.
And courageous. And so the final coordinated statewide housing program is Vermont Tenants. You feel free. You're doing great. I won't correct you on anything. Or if you would rather me, then you just go ahead and
I
say
just
it.
want to give a picture first. When I go into your office, first of all, I see stacks and stacks and stacks of pink notes, and every single one of those notes has a message on it, because Pam sometimes can get up to 90 phone calls a day. She can have people that are walking in her door, and she can get emails. So it can be overwhelming, the number of renters that need assistance. What do I do in this situation? I got an eviction notice. How do I handle this? Or I've got mold in my apartment. What do I do? And they call Pam, and not just from Chittenden County. They call Pam from every county in the state.
I'm native, and I've heard of towns that I wasn't aware were here. I'll be going, where's that?
Yeah.
So, so it is.
Yeah.
So.
And you also work with landlords. It's not just a one-sided.
Right.
No solution is one-sided. Every solution to a problem has two sides that are working together to form one solution.
Absolutely, and really the heart of the Vermont Tenants mission. I've been with the Vermont Tenants a long time. I'm fairly new in the role as the director of it, but at the heart of the mission for me is to really help people understand that there should not be sides.
Right.
There is not just right or wrong in this, and really at the heart of what we do is education.
Right.
And we spend more time educating tenants on their legal responsibilities than we do their legal rights. And I talk to a lot of landlords, and I answer calls from a lot of landlords. And really, that's our goal through education, to help them understand that this is a business relationship, and it does not need to be incredibly imbalanced. It can be pleasant for both.
That's right.
So.
And that goes on to the rent right program that you're working with as well, and that's another portion of the education piece. But anyway, I wanted to leave people with the image of Pam with a microphone close to her mouth and her hands going along as she's typing along and multitasking and answering questions and referring and then going and seeing who else can help this person that's on the call, because that's another thing about CVOEO. If you get someone that's an emergency situation, they may need help with their landlord. So if someone comes in for crisis fuel, they may be sending someone to Pam. If Pam's talking with someone,
and the problem is that their utilities are shut off, and the landlord's going to evict them for that, I'm going over to crisis fuel. Or there's somebody that's living in a mobile home park, but they're renting their mobile home as well as the law, and I'm trotting down the hall. And also, housing rights and discrimination overlaps more than you can imagine. But I've been amazed at how much what I do overlaps with what community action does. And we've really managed to firm up a nice, tight team in how we do this. So we've got about 5 minutes. Talk to me about weatherization.
Well,
and
5 minutes. Wow. Well, weatherization is the other side of LIHEAP. And LIHEAP is the short-term solution. Weatherization is the long-term solution. And that is going in and assessing where you're getting energy loss, heat loss, and then being able to have some very practical ways of stopping that.
Yes.
You know, of air sealing the attic and or the the attic.
Yeah,
and making sure that there's not leakage through the walls. Where is there mold? Let's look at energy efficiency at every level, and that's weatherization. But if we have 5 minutes left, I want to make sure that we talk about the new programs that we have.
Absolutely, and that's really what I was excited about.
Yeah, we are, and actually Pam is a navigator. We're associated with the Vermont Health Connect, and the changes that Vermont is going to go through because of Obamacare.
Right.
And we became involved with this because we knew how devastating it was going to be for people that had to change from Catamount Health and VHAP, and then had to find their way into being insured. And also, it was very exciting because it is a way for people who have been uninsured to become insured. So that's one of the programs that we're working with. Do you want to say anything about navigators?
No, other than that, even though, yes, I'm the person who swaps with pink paper all the time, I'm thrilled to be a navigator. I think we're talking healthcare, which should really be a basic human right. So it's so in line with CVOEO's mission that I'm thrilled to be adding it to the corral of what we do.
That's right.
And we are ramping up now, and we're going to start enrolling people beginning in October.
Right.
And people do really need to realize that for better or for worse, whether it's the best way to go or not, doesn't really matter to us. It's happening, and we need to take care of our clients.
That's exactly
and we need to make sure they're insured.
That's right.
And so a lot of people don't realize that, as you said, VHAP, Catamount Health, they'll be gone.
That's right.
By January 1st.
They are.
So, and there's no automatic transfer. So CVOEO is one of the places where people can go and get information about it and actually get help to enroll right there. So I'm thrilled to be doing that.
The two other things that I really want to mention, well, three, but the Community Housing Grant, which is a grant that is definitely affecting the housing, and it's a solutions-based grant that involves the community. So it's not just CVOEO, it's Safe Harbor, and it's Women Helping Battered Women, and it's COTS. It's the community gathering together to address rapid rehousing and preventing homelessness. So, I mean, that's a very important piece of the work that we're doing right now, and very hopeful because it's a way that the community can gather. The other thing is that we're looking at the New American Project, and that's an internal project to be able to make sure that the barriers are brought down for new Americans. And then veterans. Veterans, we need to work to make sure that with housing especially, and with other needs, that they're taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that's been just a thrill or pleasure for me is the case manager working with veterans as part of this program is in the office right next door to me.
Yes.
And so I've been able to watch her house veteran after veteran after
That's
veteran that we know she's done the work in advance with them to have it be stable and sustainable and not something that they're going to find themselves homeless again in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So, and I've started working closely with that program, helping them to understand their tenants' rights and responsibilities as well to keep that housing stable.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just been a joy watching it and watching, you know, and people sometimes think, oh yeah, you go in and you do the work, you're a caseworker.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to put a cowbell in her office because every time she got a landlord to say yes to one of her veterans, she'd be in the hall going, and I've loved being able to see that and be part of it.
It's pretty amazing. The community housing grant and the veterans work and the fair housing and mobile home and Vermont tenants weatherization. It's a thread that Head Start, it just weaves together.
Yep. Yeah, we're great. And so we kind of saved to the last one of my favorite components of this. So this whole community housing grant, that's kind of a continuum with a lot of other organizations.
Yes.
Part of that is a project that my program is involved in, but also the Financial Futures program, and also all our CAP agencies in all counties have housing offices where they do housing support work.
Yep.
So all of the county's housing staff and myself and our Financial Futures program next month are going to launch a program that we call the Rent Right program. And that's something that we're all really excited and we're wanting to do for a very long time. And we're going to target that population that you were talking about and that are homeless or about to be homeless or very precariously housed. And even more than that, we're going to be working with a lot of people that this is not the first time that they've been homeless or about to be homeless or they're very precariously housed. So we're going to work with a lot of people that are not familiar very well with stable housing situations, and we're going to teach them how to be that, how to be stable, how to be successful, and I'm thrilled. And I think that kind of, you know, in our last, I jumped the gun a little, so maybe about 3 minutes, 2 minutes. The last piece of that is that one of the things I've really noticed that CVOEO is doing more and more and more, and the Navigators really brings it home. The New Americans Project really brings it home, that it's not a CVOEO program looking to do something, looking for funding to do something any longer. That we really are becoming CVOEO. So I in a meeting a little while ago, you kind of said something about that, and I would love it if you could repeat a little bit of it, of how, because we overlap so much, how it's crazy to split our programs. We are one.
Well, we're one, and the people that come to work for CVOEO are very mission-driven. And one of the first things I learned, because I've been in this position for over 3 years, but the first thing I found out from people is, I'm interested in what you're doing. And I may work for Head Start, but I want to know what Financial Futures is doing, and I need to know what Vermont Tenants is doing for the people that I serve. And so it's an internal recognition, but we're making it external in that we're trying to break down the silos so that we work together to make sure that everyone that comes in every door gets everything that they need and that we can offer. And that's a mission of ours, and that's actually part of our strategic planning now.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. And so, those of us that have been around with CVOEO, we're us old-timers that have been here for quite some time, we're thrilled to be doing this because it is a great feeling to not just be able to be out in public and say, you know, I'm with Vermont Tenants, but I can go out there and say, I'm with CVOEO, and lining up behind me are food shelves and community action offices and domestic violence support programs and financial programs and all of those things. So it brings a whole different level to the staff doing direct service as we work more and more and overlap our work more and more with others to really be able to understand how we do that. And it amazes me sometimes, because our offices happen to be in the same location, that you need roller skates or something, because with all my pink messages and all my phone calls to do and all the people waiting out there for me, or the grant report I'm trying to finish and all that, that's just this. And
Yeah.
you run roughshod up and down those stairs every time I see you to your office, and you kind of keep us all going on track. And I'm not really sure how you do it, but
This is good work,
you do it.
Pam.
You do it. You do it very, very well. So
Yeah, it's
I
good
want to
work.
thank you for your help in that. And I also obviously want to thank you for joining me tonight. Jan is actually technically on a vacation day, and I kind of roped her in and got her to come out and talk with me. So I'm thrilled that you did. And before we totally lose time, in November, when our next episode of Housing Fair, Safe, and Affordable airs, I've asked CVOEO's Development Director to join me because we are going to talk about CVOEO's attempt to break a Guinness World Record. So make sure you join us in November for that. We're going to be more than happy to talk about it. And of course, we always leave people with, the information that if you have any questions about anything that you've seen tonight or we've talked about, and we use a lot of volunteers, particularly in special projects like breaking world records.
Yes.
So if anybody wants more information, our website's up, and they can most assuredly contact us, ask anybody that they any questions of any of us.
That's right. It'll get to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the last piece in here is thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.